is working. I haven't gone live in a very, 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 very long time. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to see comments. So I am pulling it up on my computer too. That way I won't miss anything, hopefully. That's the goal anyways. So how do I get to my account from here? View channel, there we go. I got this. All right. Click on that one. Hey, look, I can see some comments. All right. Hey, look, I can see some comments. There we go. Now that the sound is off on my computer. Hello, everyone. Okay. Let's see. Does it show me live comments on here? There we go, live chat. Open panel. Oh, why won't it let me open it? Apparently I can't watch it from my computer. So they disappear up here. They'll show up and then they kind of like disappear, just so you guys know. I can see them, but they disappear after a few seconds. So I see Rochelle and I see Carla. Hi, Star, Wild Witch. Let's see. Is it Sean, S-Y-A-N, or is it Sion, the B? Hi, Courtney. Hi, Debbie. This is going to be a wild experience, guys. Sorry. Hey, I found my comment section on here. Yay. Okay, so if I look down, sorry. Hi, Frost and Forest. Oh, Sion. Cool. I like that. That's nifty. Wow, there's a bunch of people here. Hello, everybody. Okay, so now that I've gotten this kind of like settled out, I do have questions that I wrote down from previous videos. We're going to start off with those. And then if you guys have any questions, just put them in the live chat and I will answer them as we go. So first up, Star the Wild Witch has asked several questions and I'm hopeful that I can answer them in a great way or at least a helpful way, right? Okay, so the first question is, what is your favorite way to include and welcome the Fae into your magic? So honestly, I just acknowledge them. I just say hello, glad you're here. And I don't do like a whole lot of like ritual magic or anything like that. I don't do a lot of spells or anything like that. You didn't miss it. You didn't miss it. So yay. Hello, Positive Energy with Crystals is here now. So I don't actually do anything special. I just acknowledge the Fae. Anytime I do anything regarding them, I just acknowledge them. That's all I do, honestly. I don't do anything big or extravagant with them in any way, shape, or form. Her next question is, when you're feeling disconnected from Fae, do you... Oh, do I have a method to reconnect? I do, actually. One of my favorite ways to reconnect when I'm feeling disconnected with my Fae spirituality or Fae in general is to actually read the folklore. It may sound strange, but reading other people's experiences, their personal gnosis and stuff like that kind of gives me a reconnect like area so that I can just kind of jump in. Is it true that you should never say thank you or sorry to the Fae? That depends on the Fae. A lot of times, thank you is seen as a service. So they're not providing you a service. They're not indentured to you in any way, shape, or form. And when you say thank you, it's an implied idea that they have done something and it's an owed thing. And so it gets kind of complicated. I just say I'm grateful That's generally what I do. And sorry, I don't know. I haven't really heard much about that one. I mean, I know that that's a kind of like a myth or rumor that goes around, but I haven't found anything in the folklore that says you shouldn't say, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank them for not messing with me. That's a good one, Debbie. That's a pretty good one. So yeah, folklore is what I read folklore, personal gnosis to reconnect. Let's see. Star's next question is, what is the most profound lesson or truth you've learned directly from the Fae themselves? My most profound lesson is probably, I know it's going to sound strange, but fair energy exchange. Before I started working with the Fae, the fair energy exchange with me and other people wasn't really there because I would just give and give and give and give and give. And so when I started working with the Fae and started having that give and take, and there was a fair energy exchange there with reading in the folklore and my altar work and my offerings and stuff like that, it kind of struck me that that's how they worked. You know, if I give, they'll give back in a sense, but they're going to expect, right? There's an expectation there that if they're giving to me, I am giving back. And that doesn't matter what it is. It could be in acknowledgments, it could be in offerings, it could be in just my time or my creativity, anything like that. So I think fair energy exchange is probably my most profound lesson, specifically with the Fae. And it seems like something that should be pretty apparent, but it wasn't to me. So that's kind of why that went there. Um, oh, thank you, Rochelle. Somebody asked a question already. Courtney, what was your most profound moment while working with the Fae? Um, I don't really have anything specific. I think that nothing comes to mind specifically that showed up as like one of those profound aha, oh my gosh moments necessarily. I have profound experiences. I think that is probably as far as I can go, as profound as it goes, because I don't think that I would have had as much happen with the Fae if my belief wasn't there. And what they've done, my experiences, what they've helped me do out here has been pretty profound for me. And that's, help with my animals and my homestead and even some of my spiritual work, because I use them in my spirituality. I use them to connect to source or to my higher self sometimes, or to learn a few things on occasion. It's not like I go to them and be like, how do I do this? I don't really do that, but I think they guide me in certain ways, guide me towards things, even if I don't always know that's what they're doing. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Star's next question is, what is the most challenging aspect of your Fae practice and how do you overcome it? The most challenging aspect, I think, is not having a real community to explore with. So in the tarot community, there's lots of tarot people to like exchange tarot readings with, talk about tarot books, talk about tarot cards, in just general spirituality and paganism or just altar work or anything like that. There's a whole community out there that is really interested in how you put up altars or what you're using on your altar or all these different things. The Fae part of the spirituality, there's not a lot out there available. I'm not sure if it's because people don't want to admit to believing, out in the open, kind of like I do, or if people are just afraid or what. I am involved in some communities, like on Facebook, and I'm part of the Faery Investigation Society now, and they have a private group where people can interact. And there's podcasts, but even in the podcasts, it's not like you're in a community full on, talking about Fae experiences. It's just a few people talking about Fae experiences on a pre-recorded podcast, and you can leave comments. But a lot of times, even in the podcasts, the creator doesn't necessarily get back to you, and the other people who are commenting don't necessarily go and comment on your comments either. So the community part is really hard for me. How do I overcome it? I talk to everybody about it anyways. And sometimes I get weird looks. I talk to my kids. I talk to my husband. My husband often rolls his eyes at me. He's supportive, but he's just like, I don't really believe in Faye, right? His family, though, is really supportive. If I start talking to trees or something like that, they'll ask me questions. They'll actually get involved and they'll be like, do you see a face in the tree? Like, what's going on here? Or if I see a bee buzzing around, I'll get really involved with what the bee is doing, because it's just the way I do things. It just depends on what I'm called to do, right? And his family will be all sorts of interested in whatever I'm doing in that moment. But I do get the placations a lot of time. But honestly, I'm just working towards building a community with everybody. And I think that's my way of trying to get around this hurdle, this community hurdle. That's what my Patreon's about. I want to connect with people in a community sort of way where we're actually talking about this. We're experiencing things, we're trying things out and listening to each other and, that kind of stuff. So I'm hopeful. I know I just started my Patreon, but I'm hopeful that that will be a community thing for me. So fingers crossed, right? Okay, so I think that's all stars questions. Aspasia Rising, she asked, are there any specific crystals you work with when you work with the Fae? I was going to grab this before I started. Give me a second. I got to go to my altar now and pick my my crystal up. Oh. All right, sorry about that. So I actually only work with one crystal for my Fae work, and it's my pendulum. And it is the only pendulum I own. It's amethyst, and it's the design on it that drew me to it. I'm not really sure why, but I really like this faceted amethyst. And I'm telling you, I've had this thing for years. Okay, years. I don't do a lot of pendulum work, only with the Fae. That's the only work that I do is with the Fae. And I'm going to tell you something about this. So like I said, I've had this for many, many years. It stays in this box. I will put it, like if I'm traveling, I will take it with me and put it in pockets and stuff like that. The chain never knots. Believe it or not, this chain never ever. I've never had it knot. I'm not sure if that's normal or not, but most chains, most necklace chains and stuff like that, when you put it in pockets and you put it in little containers and stuff like that, and you're moving it in and out, it tends to get knots. This one never does. So yeah, it's my amethyst that I use all the time for my Fae work. Well, whenever I'm using like pendulum Fae work. And I use this for like more specific things. Like I think I asked my brownie if she preferred bread or honey for her offerings, or yes or no questions, stuff like that. But I'm not big into pendulum work either. So comments are no longer showing up, just so you guys know. I'm not really sure why. So let me see here. Let's go to my computer and I will kind of scroll up on this and see if I can find any other questions. The building the community thing is awesome. Yes, I'm hopeful for it. Love the shape. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is really neat. His family is supportive. My husband's family, and they're pretty religious. His aunt is Catholic and his mother's a Seventh-day Adventist. So it's pretty crazy. Let's see. Do his eyes glass over? Rochelle, yes. Sometimes when I'm speaking, my husband's eyes just gloss over. Summer, Rochelle says, Summer, what is your most favorite book ever to learn more about the Fae? Oh my gosh. I'm looking at live chat on my computer, so you guys know. That's how I'm seeing live chat right now. So I'm kind of scrolling up, going through things. So what my favorite book ever to learn more about the Fae, that is very hard. There's a lot of really great books that I enjoy. I don't have a favorite one ever. It's really hard. I think that currently I'm really enjoying the Evan Wen's book that I'm currently reading, The Fairy Faith in the Celtic Countries. It's an old book, but it has a lot of material in it, from folklore to science of it to they're trying to prove Faye exists. That's basically what the whole book is about. Is this man is going all throughout the world trying to prove that Faye exists. And it's really cool, actually, but it's a much older book, like early 1900s kind of book, late 1800s kind of thing. And so I think that one is currently my favorite, but when I start doing different other folklore, I'll probably find another favorite one. All right, so I'm going to scroll up a little bit more, see if I've gotten any other questions. Through your research, Debbie asks, is there any preferred plants that they like? Preferred plants. Personally, in my personal practice, I have found they enjoy columbines. I don't grow a lot of things. I kind of joke that I have like a gray or a black thumb. So I've seen my columbines grow really good when I grow them, and they tend to spread out and stuff like that, like especially in the city. I have like a whole corner of my yard and my columbines they just blew up. So, and they feel very Faye to me, but I don't know of any other flowers specifically. I hear in books, not necessarily folklore, but in books in a general sense, people will talk about herbs that are flower related or fairy related, like lavender and rosemary. And I think there's actually an entire herb book out there by, I think the last name's Franklin, or maybe the first name's Frankie, something like that. If I find it, I will do a video on it. But I think I have it in my collection. It's out of my fairy den, I think. But it has a bunch of different herbs in it that are supposedly, Fae related. And then Cicely Mary Barker, who she was a big prolific fairy artist. She did a bunch of like flowers that were related to the Fae. I don't know if she specifically saw them as Fae specific, but she did a lot of fairies based off that. Let's see. Going up, sorry. Okay, I think. Okay, so that's I just got to the, is it true to never say thank you or sorry? So now I'm going to scroll back down and try to catch up on chat. Okay. I was weeding today and something came out of the weeds and screamed, scared me. A chippy was hanging around my bag. Oh, wait, that just messed the whole thing up. What happened? Oh, somebody commented. Okay. Well, I missed that comment. Sorry. I'm pretty sure that was Debbie, though. Hello, Strength Reversed. Hi. Is it Kayenne? Kayenenne. I hope that's right. Yeah, Nasturtiums. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I don't even know what those are, but they sound fairy. Okay. Hyann said, I got some homemade fairy dolls last week, and I really like bringing them with me in my bag, like when I go out and about. They're only small, but I love them and want to collect fairy dolls. Oh, I love fairy dolls. I make my own. I don't generally buy them for other people, but I do make my own. So I love little fairy dolls. I don't generally carry a lot of them with me. On occasion, I'll carry my brownie with me. Okay, I found Debbie's comment where she was weeding. A chippy was hanging around, though, so it could have been him. Was so sudden, though, was weird. Sounds very fairy experience to me. All right. Kyan asked, if you come across a fairy that's not nice, how would you work with that? I would not work with a fairy that's not nice. I would politely ask them to leave me alone. And if that didn't work, I would do other things to discourage it from hanging around. And the second question is, would burning sage protect you from bad fairies? I don't know if it protects you from bad fairies. I know burning sage generally cleanses your area of negative energies, but I see the Fae as beings of themselves. So, I mean, they are energy based, obviously, in their own way, just like we are. But I don't know that that unless you truly believe that sage will make them go away, or you are in contact with fae that don't particularly care for sage, which is possible, then that could make them go away. But I think honestly, just asking them to leave is the better option 90% of the time. They're beings, and I'm not going to say that they're never going to bother you, or that you're not going to come across some that just don't want to go away so easily. But that's where other things come in. Like if you really believe iron will get rid of fae, then you can use that on your property. You can put protection sigils against that particular fae that you're feeling. And I think that if you truly felt that the sage would work, I think you could make it work if you truly felt it. Intent goes a really long way. Oh yeah, Rochelle, that's a good one. Comments came back up. Ask your fairy friends to escort out the bad fae. I do like that. I've never tried that, but I do like that. The Wild Witch, you totally changed my perception around iron, and I so appreciate that, Summer. I am very glad that I was able to help with that. Like I said, I don't know that it'll be okay for every single fae, but I do think that not all fae are afraid of iron or worry about iron. They're individual. Courtney, what is your opinion on iron or silver? Oops. Oh, that went away. Never mind. Debbie, a fairy bouncer. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, a fairy bouncer. I like that. Okay, so I'm still open to questions. If you have any more, I'm all for it. Rochelle says, can you tell us a little bit more about your Patreon? Okay, so my Patreon is just basically where I want to explore folklore into my practice. I want to explore experiences. If that's through tarot, cool. If that's through crystals, cool. Whatever happens to be at that time. I just want to explore my fairy path and spirituality and bring a community together that can do it without somebody dragging you down for it, for whatever you're doing. I don't want it to be a place where anybody's afraid of sharing that kind of experience. Right now on my Patreon, it's basically I show people what I've done in some of my journals, what I've written down. Oh, thank you, Rochelle, for posting my Patreon link. I really appreciate that. But I've got my journal stuff in there. I've got some tarot stuff in there. I've got a guide from the summer solstice. I want to do some guides on things that I've personally done in my ritual or my practice, where you guys can download them and add them to your own books, grimoires, whatever. And I want to continue with that. I'm getting ready to do a like deeper study for folklore, and one of the stories that's in the Evanwen's book that I'm reading. And it's just a short little story. It's The Invisible Island is what it's called. And what I want to do is I've already built a whole guide for it. What I want to do is a video on it where I'm talking about the story. I'm going to read the story to the people, and then kind of explore some themes, some core ideas, stuff like that, and talk about ways you can journal through it, ways you can add how that story might be involved in the spiritual practice that you're working on, that kind of stuff. And I think that would be a really fun thing to do with other people. It's just trial and error kind of right now with my Patreon, but it's all Fae. It's all Fae related. It's just walking a fairy path, literally. There's the option to do the whole thing with me, or the option to just support me with the smaller payment and just enjoy some Fae stuff that I share that I don't share on YouTube, pretty much. Or early access stuff that I might be putting on YouTube, but will come early to Patreon members, stuff like that. Okay, so all of my comments went away again. There we go. Rochelle says, Summer, I totally love how much work you have put into this month's journey into the world of Fae Fairy. It's been wonderful. Thank you very much. I love that you put this together for everybody. Like I was telling, who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody, and the whole idea that you have put a whole community together. I think it was in a comment. It was in the comment of somebody's video, but the whole community, Carlos, maybe the whole community together. Oops, what happened? And you're allowing people to explore their personal practice with the rest of the community, and you're including tarot with it, right? With their practice. Debbie did the self-love, and we added a lot of tarot to that, and journaling prompts and crafts, the Fae stuff. I added tarot to that, which is gonna, it's super fun. You're doing aliens in August, which will be a really interesting topic for me, considering I haven't done much with aliens. So I think it's really great because you're allowing people to explore things they maybe wouldn't have explored otherwise. So I really like that. Let's see. I gotta scroll back up here. Okay, she posted my Patreon. Okay, Frost and Forest. This may be a weird question, but how do you distinguish Fae around you versus something like ghosts? They feel very different to me, actually. Ghosts terrify me. My hackles on the back of my neck go up, even if it's like trying to connect with my ancestors, like my mother or something. Like my hair will stand on end. I'll just get the creepy crawlies and have to deal with that. So hello, Deborah. And with the Fae, I don't get that. The Fae kind of feel it's subtle. Their energy is a lot more subtle and quieter than like a ghosty type energy for me. It doesn't feel so in my face or feel so creepy, I guess. Now, I will admit that if they get involved in my dreams, they definitely creep me out. But but that's a boundary. I've already told you guys about that. That's a boundary. That's a hard no. They're not allowed in my dreams. But that's kind of how I tell the difference. It's very based on my physical reaction to them. Very much based on my physical reaction. Okay, let's scroll back up. We're talking about. Okay, Courtney, yes, it has been amazing. Thank you, Summer. I did learn a lot. I'm really, really glad that people have been able to explore more with the Fae without, all the fear mongering that is involved in a lot of stuff that people talk about with the Fae. Let's see, scrolling back up for any more questions. Woo-hoo. Fairy bouncer. Okay. And how have your own, do you have your own fairy wand? Oops, chat messed that up. Here we go. Looking back for it. Sorry, guys. This is complicated on my phone. I do everything from my phone, though, so yay. Go back up to this question. Do you have your own fairy wand? I see that suggested in a few fairy books, like things to do to connect with Fae. You can make one. I did make one, actually. When I first started working with the Fae, I did Emily Carding's Fairycraft book. And in there, it was suggested to make a wand. And so I took this really old spoon. I still have it. It's out in my fairy den. And you can find it in my older videos, too. Or if you do the Fairycraft, if you go back to my playlist, the Fairycraft playlist, it's on there, too. But I created a spoon fairy wand off of my spoon that I had been using for years for sun tea. And that was really fun. And then I did finally do like a polymer clay one because I'm a polymer clay artist. So I added a crystal that my husband found for me. We went to Crystal Park and we were allowed to dig up our own crystals. And he found this really clear crystal for me. It was like this big. So I put it into a fairy wand. And I usually have that hanging around my altar somewhere. Cayenne, one house I lived in had brownies. They seemed involved in healing the energy lines, I thought. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Rochelle says, Summer, do you think there's any validity to any Fae being extraterrestrials? I do. We've touched base on some of that because Fae is such a big broad term. And as we talked earlier, Rochelle, extraterrestrials was the idea that they weren't of this earth, right? So I think that the Fae absolutely can be. They absolutely can be. I generally see them as more earth-based, but different dimensions. So I don't know if that would be what you would call extraterrestrial or not. And since I don't do a lot of work extraterrestrial wise or even like really looking it up, I'm not sure what the ground rules of that would be. I just see them as another being that's on this earth with us, within this life with us. That's kind of how I see it. Hopefully that answered the question. Let's see. Any others? Oh, that's the brownie one. Okay, cool. Your son saw them too out of the corner of his eye. He said, "Who the heck are those little fast little guys?" We're very fast. I don't doubt it. There's a lot of Fae that are really super fast. Most of the time, you wouldn't even see them unless they wanted you to see them. That's the crazy part about the Fae is they if they don't want you to see them or they don't want other people to know what you're doing with them, you're not going to be able to share it and you're not going to see it because they just make it disappear. So that's, one of the aspects, like when I first started working with the Fae, if I took any pictures or did any video or anything like that, it would always just disappear. But that was kind of my own fault because I didn't ask really to share any of my work and I wasn't really building a relationship yet with them. So I think once you build a relationship, that Fae that you're building a relationship, whether it's property Fae, elemental Fae, a guide Fae, anything like that, I think that's when you are able to share more if they say yes, kind of thing. And they do have a whole on respect thing. Like their rules for their society stuff has a lot more old school respect than our modern day society does. But I also think that the Fae, just like any other, beings, gods and goddesses even, they're trying to be more modern. They're trying to come into our modern world in modern ways instead of staying back and being stuck back in the 1800s, right? When everybody started writing about them, the late 1800s and early 1900s, when everybody was investigating fairies. I think they evolve just like we do. They explore, they're trying new things. And I think that sometimes they are reaching out to people in order to learn more about the modern world or participate in it even. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's see. My my comments disappeared again. Let's see. I gotta scroll back down on this. Okay. I used lots of healing on the land, respect of all living beings. So maybe that's why they showed themselves. That's entirely possible, because a healthy amount of respect is really important in fairy work. Rochelle says, Summer, would you go into a Fae ring without being invited or having a fairy guide? I would not. Would not. I'd be afraid of that. Like I'd want to be like, oh, I want to go in, but I don't think I would step a single toe in any kind of fairy ring without an invitation or a requested guide, because I don't want to be stuck somewhere. I really don't. And honestly, I don't know what would happen. Like based off the folklore and stuff, like I don't know if I'd even remember what happened when I came back, even if I was gone for only a couple of seconds and it was just minutes here in the real world. And do they lure you? Do they lure you? That's a really great question. I actually haven't asked the Fae if they would lure you, but in folklore, it's often thought that their music would like entrance you or enchant you to follow them. So I guess that's kind of a lure, right? That's kind of like luring you into something. Oh, my comments came back. Should I say their legends of Fae lure you into fairy rings? I think, yes, there are definitely folklore that out, especially like in Ireland and stuff on the mounds and whatnot, you hear strange music at night and you follow it and you're in a fairy ring and that becomes something almost like sirens. Yeah. Yep. Almost like sirens. Debbie, is there a certain area of the world? Oops. Go back down. Is there a certain area of the world that you follow more for Fae lore? Ireland, British Isles, England, stuff like that. Fae are newer to the United States. And Iceland. Iceland has Fae. Yeah, that's a thing. And I think I went into a fairy ring as a kid, felt very lost, and couldn't hear a whole gathering of people for a while. It got scary as an 8-year-old. Wow, yeah, that would be terrifying as a child. I think I would be afraid as a child to experience that. I don't remember being a kid and experiencing anything like that. The only thing I remember was I stayed a summer with my father in Utah, my biological father in Utah, and I must have been around 9 or 10. I think we were on spring break from school. No, it was summer, not the spring break. So I went and saw him for spring break and then decided to stay the summer with him. And he was dating a full Indian lady, and we would go to the Indian camp places There's a name for it, and my brain just totally malfunctioned that. Why can't I think of what it's called? But anyways, we would stay in their teepees, and they'd have powwows and stuff like that. And me and the kids, the other kids that were there, we would have to spend all day outside. There was no inside. Inside did not happen. And so we would climb trees and all sorts of other stuff. And I remember going out back, and we wandered really far down this stream, and there was this old house. And it didn't have any stairs going up to it. I thought it was really weird that it didn't have any stairs going up to it. And all of the kids, all of the little Indian kids that were in that area that I was playing with, they were terrified of this house. There was some kind of magical thing about this house, and they wouldn't go near it. They wouldn't even let me go near it. They're like, they were wide berth and everything else. And I mean, that was the only thing I can remember as a kid that was even remotely close to happening, any kind of Fae or witchy style magical energy. Hello, my comments went away again. That is a thing apparently with this. Okay. Scary. Rochelle, I took acid when I was like 18 and seen the Fae playing with me. They were running from tree to tree and hiding and laughing and pointing at me. Oh, wow. That'd be fun to experience a little bit, I think. I don't know. I've never done acid. I've never done a lot of drugs, really. Weed. That's about as far as I've ever gone. Let's see. Okay, and I've never seen a fairy ring before. Where would you find them? I would love to see the fairyland, but the one thing that worries me is the time difference in that world, so like not being seen again. So one of the things that you can consider about seeing fairyland is if you go into meditation, there's a guide that can take you to an idea of fairyland, like in your mind, telepathically kind of. And the Fairy Craft by Emily Carding talks about that, using like the fairy sigil, connecting with a guide to go into fairyland. And as far as fairy rings are concerned, fairy rings are really, really interesting. A lot of times they are more presumed as a ring of mushrooms. Full circle of mushrooms is considered a fairy ring. But recently I learned stuff that I didn't know before. But I was reading about somebody who had expressed that different colored grasses, like if the grass is a light color everywhere, and then there's rings or dark paths of grass, that could be like a fairy path or a fairy ring too. I've never seen one of those though. I have seen a ring of mushrooms. I did not walk into it. It was out on my property during the very wet season. And I do get a lot of mushrooms in my actual garden area this year, which surprised me, but they're not rings, thankfully. Hopefully, I don't think it's a ring. I do walk out there and I get radishes from it. So hopefully it's not a ring and I'm not accidentally walking into it. Let's see. A huge party with bonfire. It went into some trees and lantana, hide and seek, and couldn't hear or see anyone. Totally silent. That's scary. The total silence thing, that would freak me out, I think. That would really freak me out. They look like gremlins, Rochelle, running from tree to tree. How cool. How super cool. Oh, gosh. Feel free to share your guys' experiences. I mean, honestly, there are so many different kinds of fairy experiences that just astound me. When I'm reading in the folklore and stuff like that, it's amazing. Hey, look, comment back. The Wild Witch. Have you ever encountered any of the more dangerous fae, such as redcaps? I've never seen one. Honestly, no, I have never seen one. I have never actually, other than the ones that were in my dreams, I've never even felt uncomfortable with any kind of fairy encounter I've had. It's never happened. Have you ever seen fairies that look like Tinkerbell? Nope, I have not. 90% of my fairy interaction is I see faces in trees or I see faces in wood, the floor, carpet, my window. I shared that. My dog's fur. That's about as far as that's ever gone. I tend to feel them more than I see them. And I sense them. Like I have a sense of what they look like and I can ask them questions. And I also create art. So like my polymer clay creations are fairies that want to be seen, but I don't know what they look like in advance. I don't know what they look like until they're there, till their faces are there. And then suddenly there's this fairy being and I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? Rochelle, you've had lots of experiences in Dreamscape. I don't doubt that at all. You're very big in your dream stuff. I have hardly any control of my dreams, so I tend to shy away from my dreams a lot. Star, I made a video recounting some of my experience, been editing all day. Yay! I'm excited to see that one, Star. Debbie, mine is brown. Ooh, what happened? Go back. Okay. Where'd you go? Debbie, mine is brown, short, and looks sort of like Dobie with big ears. That's valid. A lot of my clay creations come out similar to that. Like I've been when I go to events and stuff like that, a lot of times people will say, "Oh, it's Dobie," even though it's not Dobie. Brownies in the house, I think. Yep, I could see that. I could see that. Wild Witch, will you be selling any more Faye dolls soon? If not, do you take commissions? I would be willing to take commissions. I'm not currently doing a lot of clay right now. I would be willing to do clay commissions, maybe not like right in this moment, just because I have so much going on my homestead, which is why I'm kind of taking a break from it. But I would be willing to do commissions for certain people. It's hard to do commissions because what somebody sees and what comes out is not, it's not always how it goes. It's not always how it goes. But I would tell you that the commission would not be cheap because doing a fairy doll it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Let's see. Going back here. There were blue bells. Oh, where did it go now? Sorry. Never seen a fairy ring. Oh, I must have gone way too far up or something. There's the Dangerous Fairy ones. There's Tinkerbell. There's the Dreamscape. Okay, cool. Editing, Dobie. Now I'm back to where I think I'm supposed to be. There were bluebells in amongst some trees that I used to have memories of speaking to fairies when I was 4. I was very careful with them even then. Wow, that's cool. Do you make those dolls, posable fairy dolls, the ones that can hang up where they have string as hair? I haven't actually made any ones that hang up, but I do make posable fairy dolls. I'll show you the brownie that I made. Her name's Effie. I have showed her on my channel before. I'll grab her. She's up on my altar. And I haven't really, I made like kitchen witches that hanged on strings once for an event, but I haven't really made any ones that are like string related that hang up that are posable necessarily. All right. This is my local brownie. This is Effie. She's posable. She moves around, her feet, everything. She'll sit down. She'll wander around with me, you know, all that kind of stuff. Her body's pretty fixed, but her hands or her arms and her legs are pretty movable. So I make these. That's what I make. This is a brownie. This is one of the smallest dolls I've ever made, really. I don't really make small dolls. Usually my dolls are more like that. So more closer like the 10 to 12 inch range when I make my Faye dolls. So, but yeah, the Effie's been with me for a couple of years now. She's been with me for a couple of years. Like the snow winter. I made her during the snow winter. And she's always up on my altar. What's crazy is we get a lot of dust here. Like a lot. There's so much dust in a week. Like on my shelves, there's like dust. It's awful because it's just nothing out here. Nothing blocking anything. I'm out on the prairie. She never has dust build up on her. Not ever. I'll go to dust her. There's nothing there to dust. The dust doesn't even seem to faze her in any way, shape, or form. Maybe she just moves around a lot when I'm not looking. I don't know. So yeah, that's Effie. And that's kind of what I make. That's kind of what I do. My comments went away again. So let's go back. She is fabulous. Thank you, Rochelle. I would love to make clay fairies, but not good with clay at all. It's practice makes perfect, Deborah. Really, really it does. I've been doing it since 2015. I started out with just little tiny dragons, and I knew I always wanted to make dolls, and then I grew into being able to make dolls. It took me a long time to figure out how to make faces, and it was really hard. Faces are very, very hard. Super hard to do. Hi, little fairy. She says hi. Sorry, I was talking to Effie. Brownies look like Dobie from Harry Potter. I wonder if they're the same species of house elves. I mean, it's possible. It could be. Has anybody ever seen the Spiderwick Chronicles? Like I watched the movie. I've never actually read the books, but I have watched the movie. And there's a brownie in there that kind of, it's a brownie, and then when it gets upset or angry, it turns into a bogart, which I thought was a really interesting concept, because I've always seen brownies and bogarts as separate beings. But the idea that a brownie shifts into a bogart when it's angry is really cool. And it kind of coincides with Brian Froud when he's talking about fairies, shape-shifting fairies, and how in any given moment they could be good or bad, and they can shift in and out of different beings, like how they're seen, right? Like if you see a nice face in one moment, you could look again and not see a nice face. Or maybe you'll see a leaf in a moment, and the next moment you look, it's on a flower, right? Like they shift in and out of different moments. And I'm not really sure why that is. Brian Froud, he's very eloquent with how he explores fairy, which is why I love him so much. Like seriously. Okay, I'm gonna come back up here, see if there's any other questions. I don't see any other questions. So hopefully I've answered most of what everybody would be concerned about. And I've tried to do that even in my videos for June videos. So feel free to go back and watch them. And I mean, if you have any other questions, also ask. I mean, I'll answer them. I'm okay with it. I don't know everything. I'm not like a super expert or an academic or anything like that. I'm really not. I'm just somebody who is trying to create a spiritual path working with the Fae. That's literally all I'm doing. So I read folklore and I read fiction books on fairies. Like I love Emily Wilde's series. Phenomenal, well-researched in folklore, absolutely brilliant, and gave me even ideas about the fairy that I never had before, which was super cool. So I love fiction about fairies. I even read some young adult about fairy stuff. I have young adult books like Fairytopia and stuff like that, like little pop-up books about fairies, which I like. I have more modern books like Morgan Daimler's Dictionary of Fairies. What I would like to get is the older books, like Catherine Briggs books. Oh man, I would love to get my hands on Catherine Briggs books. She did like The Vanishing People. She did her own Dictionary of Fairies. She's like a really well-renowned folklorist from back, back early 1900s kind of thing. And some of her stuff has been kind of like debunked or whatever, or proven wrong, but I don't care. Like I still want the books. I want the books. I want the older books, because I find so much value in them, because there's so much information that we wouldn't know if they hadn't gone to all these places to write down these oral traditions, to write down these oral stories that have been passed down from grandparents to kids, right? It's just phenomenal to me and blows my mind, honestly, and I love it. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of books that I would love to have still. What got you working into working with the Fae? I just felt called to do it, honestly. I've always liked fairy related content. Like I have fairy pictures and little fairy figurines that people just always got me. It's just always been that way ever since I can remember. People always just got me little fairy figurines or fairy notebooks or fairy pictures. And then I went through something really bad back in like 2018-ish, 2019-ish. And I was lonely, extremely lonely. And I had a fairy deck, the Amy Brown Fairy Oracle, with the blue box, the old version. One of my friends had got it for me for like a birthday present several years before, like when it first came out. He saw it at the store. He thought of me. He got it for me. I never opened it. I'd never done anything with it. And suddenly I wanted to work with it. And I think that's what kind of just really set it all off. And then as I moved forward in like a pagan practice, because I was searching for something, right? It kind of evolved into a fairy spirituality. Let's see. Debbie, I've learned so much. Thank you, Summer. This month was really fun and it got me outside more. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I wish I could be outside more doing things like grounding, but there's lots of cactus and goat poop that I don't really want to walk barefoot in. One of these days, I'm going to have like a really nice little grassy or clovery area. That's what I'm working on, like by my fairy den and where my outside fairy altar is. That's kind of what I'm working on. Slow going though, because water out here has to be hauled and it's a whole process. So I'm working on it. It's a slow process, but I'm working on it. But I'd love to do some grounding out here, just not with cactus and goat poop. or chicken poop even, because they just wander around out here. um, let's see. How many fairy decks do you have? Oh yes, okay. Thank you for reminding me, Michelle, because this is one of the things that I forgot to do in the video. So the winner's already been chosen. Deborah won, right? The Good Fairies, Bad Fairies book. And you guys didn't have to guess the right amount of decks. You just had to guess how many fairy decks I had. So how many Fae decks I have 75 Fae decks. My total deck collection is 121. So more than half of my collection is Fae related, but almost half, almost literally half, like 55 of those decks is very specific. And hopefully there's more coming in, because I like buying fairy decks. If I see a fairy deck, I get it. There's fairy decks I don't have that I do want. There are some out there that are out of print, like the other Brian Froud one. I have the Brian Froud Fairies Oracle, but I want the Heart of the Fairy. Oh, I'd love to have that one. But that one's also by Wendy Froud, his wife. So, you know, that's super cool. Okay, let's see. Star, same. I've been eyeing her work on thrift books. Yes, thrift books. I like thrift books. I like Abe books too. Yep. How many fairy books do you have? I do not know. I have not counted those. I will have to do a count. But I have a lot. Like, see, can I like move you guys up? Yes. All those books up on that shelf right there are fairy books here. There we go. Haha, you can see that shelf. That's all fairy books. So I don't really know like how many there are, and I have a ton more. Like they're down here, and I have them out in my fairy den. So I have a lot of them. I don't think there's as many as I have decks though. Was your family into Fae, mother or grandmother? Actually, not really. My grandma has an angel affinity. And her mom, though, her mom has fairy superstitions, which I did a video on a couple of years ago for Samhain, where my grandma was talking about her mother, who is from Ireland, her superstitions and stuff like that. And she was very respectful of the Fae, but she didn't work with the Fae, right? Because I don't really know why she didn't, but I know she was from Ireland. She, came over here to the United States, and then I'm a lineage of Ireland people. I don't really know much else about that side of my family. And then the other side of my family is German. My grandmother's literally half German and half Irish, like literally. Her mom was Irish, her dad was full German. There was conflict. You forgot what you guessed, Debbie? You can always go back and look. That's a lot of decks. Yes, it is. It is a lot of decks, but not as many as some other people. So, I mean, honestly, I think I have a respectful amount of decks for my living space, though I feel like I'm definitely going to have way more than I should for my living space. That's totally going to happen, and it's okay. My husband's okay with it too. Like, it'll just spread out, and then I'll have to, deal with it. But hey, I definitely want more than a respectable amount for my living space. Let's see. I guess 50. Yep. Okay. Hi, Tarot Oracle for the Soul. I have a lot of decks on my wish list. I do too. There's a lot of decks on my wish list too. There is. Wild Witch, I'd love to see your full collection. Okay, so full collections of decks or books or both. I could do it. It's pretty easy. I could do it. I've done a full collection of my fairy decks 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I think. And I definitely have more decks now. And I did consider doing a whole full deck video for the June work, but I decided against it. She likes fairy decks instead of big decks. Ha ha ha. That's what she said. I love you, Rochelle. Okay. We have a tiny bird here called a fairy wren. When we brought one of his wives to help, she had cobweb on her foot. She came and sat quietly so I could remove the web. They often come near me and chirp. Oh, I love that. I do think that animals are fae too. I think you can find fae animals because I think the fae can shift their energy into animal form. I do think that. Both. I'll do both. All right, Star, I could do both. You're such an inspiration. I just wanted to tell you that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's see. I had to. The fairies made me say, of course they did. Of course they did. Okay, so yeah, so we're coming up on the hour mark, guys. There's 5 minutes to an hour. So is there anything else you guys want to ask me? Anything else you want to talk about before we, let this live go? And if there's other kind of videos that you want me to make, feel free to put them in the comments. If I can do it, I will. I do know I have other fairy videos I plan on making for Patreon too. So, I mean, it's just going to be in both places, but my more personal work is going to be on Patreon, not on YouTube. Let's see. For human healing, I call on angels. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I like that the fairy in the teacup you have, the one on your shelf. Yes. I actually have, where'd they go? I have a whole set. My stepmother, she buys me a new teacup fairy every single Christmas. So I have like a whole set of them. And she's getting me the dragon ones now, the dragon teacup ones now. I think they're Amy Brown's. If I remember right, they're Amy Brown fairies. What is the blood type of fairies and what is your blood type? Are you fairy bloodline? I have no idea what the fairy blood type is. I have no idea if I'm a fairy bloodline, but recently I read about, the Fae, like the Trois de Danann, them reincarnating as a human. So I mean, maybe there's fairy bloodlines there. I'm not really sure. It's not something I have done a lot of research into. And I don't know my blood type at all. I have no idea what it is. I should know, but I have no idea what it is. Star, I just wanted to thank you and Rochelle for doing this. It has really absolutely reawakened my faith, spirituality, and practice. Yay, I'm so glad to hear that. Deborah, this is great. Can you do more lives if possible? I could try to do more lives. I won't promise a lot of them. Lives are extremely uncomfortable and I don't know what to talk about. So if I have a topic, it's easier. So maybe that's what I could do. I could do like a live showing all my fairy decks. Would you guys like that? Or all my fairy books? And I just have like piles of fairy stuff up beside me. Because this is a little space, guys. It's not a big space at all. Oh, yeah. Okay. Will you do a Q&A live stream again? This was fun. I will try to. Yeah. In the future, I will definitely try to. For the record, I think you are a fairy bloodline. I might be, Rochelle. I might be. I am going to plead the fifth. It's a secret. I'm not sure if it's even a secret for me, but it's a secret. It's a secret. Hillary, thank you for doing the videos and everything else this month. It was amazing and so much fun and exactly what I needed right now. I'm really glad that I could be helpful to you. Carla, yes, this has been a very interesting and absolutely enlightening month for me. Thank you, Summer. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, so I will do a live with fairy decks, okay? With fairy decks. And we can go from there. I will set up a live to show all my fairy decks. That's gonna be a lot of decks, guys. Do you want Faye or Fairy? Because if it's Faye, it's gonna be 75 decks. If it's Fairy, it's a little less. It's a little less than that. Okay. Refresh my interest in elementals. That's cool. Elementals are really interesting too because they fall into that Fae realm. And one of the earliest stories about working with like a Fae spirit is Elementals by Pericles, I think it was. And I did talk about that in my previous video, my last video. I think you should just do a series of videos showing your whole collection of fairy decks. Okay, a series. So would it be like all my blue fairy decks, all my pink fairy decks? All of my rainbow colored fairy decks. Oh my gosh. Just fairy first, then we could do the rest of them. Just the fairy ones first. Okay, well then we could do the rest of them. I get you. I get you, Debbie. I got it. Just like 10 at a time. 10 at a time each live, right? Just 10 at a time. This is the first 10. This is the second 10. I can do that. Oh. But Rochelle said that would be great. Have you read about Findhorn in Scotland? I have seen that in some of the stuff that I've read, but I haven't specifically looked for it. It's in one. Findhorn is in the folklore in the Evan Wentz book. Findhorn is mentioned, but nothing specific. I haven't read anything specific about it. Carla, oh my goodness, yes, I would love the different colored deck themes. That could be really interesting. You'd be surprised how many are multicolored. There's a lot of multicolored fairy decks. There's a lot of fairy oracles. More fairy oracles than tarot, I think. But I think that's changing. I think that's kind of coming around to where they're evening out a little bit more. I do think that. They worked with divas and elementals. It was interesting. Divas. What are divas? Devas? Are those gods or goddesses? Or are they jinn? I'm not sure what those are. I'm not sure what divas are. I've heard of it, but I can't fixate on what that is supposed to be. So if you could explain, I would like that. Yes. The oversouls. Oh. I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't think I've really explored that much. Who will I marry? Me, a Pisces. Rana, I have no idea who you're gonna marry. Ask the fairies if you want to know, I guess. I'm not sure if they'll do that for you though, but you could ask. Rochelle, a member of class of divine beings in the Vedic period, which in Indian religion are benevolent and in Zoroastrianism or are evil. Oh, interesting. I believe that's a Blavatsky term. Okay. Okay. I'm definitely gonna have to look it up more, kind of play into that and see where it's like. There's a book by Thomas Kitely that has like a whole bunch of different kind of fae, and the Jinn is in that. I didn't see Devas, but I did see Jinn in that one. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. We're at an hour. We're over an hour already, and as much as I would love to just sit here and do this, I do have a husband who is on his way home. And respectfully, we live in a tiny house, so we have to be respectful of each other's time and company. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I loved doing this month with you guys, and I hope to do more fairy videos in the future. I will try to do more lives where I'm showing my decks and my books. Okay, I will try to do that because I think that's a valid live thing. I mean, you guys gave me the perfect thing to do lives on. Absolutely perfect. Thank you. So you guys have a very great day, and I will talk to you guys later if I can figure out how to end the live stream. Like that's the trick, right? Figure out how to end it. Let's see, I've got hide live stream. Wow, maybe I won't be able to end live stream. Oh my gosh, how am I gonna do this? Here, that. Are you sure you want to stop streaming? There we go, I figured it out. All right, you guys have a